Welcome to the Mental Health Bootcamp podcast. Woo.
Beep, 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 beep.
This is the podcast where 4 psychotherapists, 3 of us Canadian, 1 of us Americans, serve you cutting edge mental health knowledge. I am Dr. Ryan Howes, psychologist, Pasadena, California.
I'm Dr. Brooke Lewis, a registered clinical counselor from Coquitlam.
I'm Joanna Boyd, also a clinical counselor who lives in Port Moody.
I'm Chris Boyd, psychotherapist from the Greater Vancouver area.
And there we are. Last couple days of the year here, everybody.
Yeah, New Year's Eve.
Not too much more of 2021 left.
No.
In the spirit of our book club, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give 2021?
Ooh.
That's a tough one.
It is.
Tough to just boil it all down to a single number, isn't it?
Yeah. I think for me, it was still pretty high.
I know. I'm thinking at, I don't know, maybe like a 7.
Yeah, I was thinking about 7.5, maybe.
I'd say probably a 6.
6.
We
Okay.
did some good stuff, of course, but we're still in a pandemic and still lots of little
Yeah.
stuff come up and anyways, so 6.
I'm with Joe. I'll give it a 6. Nice to have some hope with some vaccines and all that stuff, pandemic wise. I don't know. I guess I'm speaking on kind of a international level here. Personally speaking, probably about 6. Yeah, it's 6 all across the board. That's about right.
All right then, 6.
Yes. Here's wishing 8s, 9s, and 10s in 2022.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Who knows?
Who knows?
Such a wild card. Yeah.
It really is. It is a wild card. And I hope the listeners we wish all the listeners 9s and 10s for 2022.
Indeed.
Yeah, it was an interesting year. 2021, everyone was so optimistic it was going to be so much better than 2020. But we've been stuck in this, as Joanna mentioned, of course, the pandemic. I think for me, my score was a little higher than a 6 is because there were some silver linings along the way. And definitely some things kind of helped me focus more on things I have control over and try to find that work-life balance. So
Yes.
I think good things happened here and there, a lot of resiliency out there. And
Yeah. And we were allowed to, reconnect and see people and not on a huge scale, but all the important people in our lives. Eventually we got to see face to face this year, and that was big.
Yeah, maybe value connection differently, So
Oh, except for you, Ryan.
Hey, I didn't get to see you guys. I mean, we talk every week, but come on. I know.
So if we would have gotten CU, it would have been a 10. A 10 out of 10. Yeah, that's the difference there between 7 and 10.
It definitely would have boosted my score a point or 2, that's for sure. No, that's a good point though. Right. There things did improve. I got to travel a bit, which was nice. And certainly some things were on an upswing.
Yeah, of course. I think we're all fortunate, the 4 of us. Lots of people had an extremely difficult year, I'm sure, in terms of work stability and connection and polarization and whatnot.
Definitely. And yeah, there may be a national difference there too. I don't know.
Yeah.
The states had a kind of a rough political year.
We did.
And started off with a big bang there on January 6th. So, and I know that certainly other countries around the world have had their own struggles and difficulties and victories and triumphs and all that as well.
Yeah.
So, but as the saying goes, just a saying, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% what you do with it, right?
Exactly.
I thought you were gonna say it was a box of chocolates. I'm like, oh yeah, that's interesting.
As,
A lot of chocolate this Christmas for sure.
as the psychologist Forrest Gump once said.
Hmm.
Now, but yeah, it has to do with the idea of locus of control. We haven't probably talked about that very much, but this idea of do we feel like the world happens to us, or do we feel like we make things happen in the world? And even when things happen to us, like you guys got a bunch of snow overnight, does it feel like, oh, my car is stuck in the snow and this is the world saying that it hates me and that I'm being punished for something? Or is it
Or
like,
is it snow day?
yay, it's an opportunity, let's have fun, let's make a snowman or something, right? Yeah. A lot of it is how we perceive it and the way that we take in that information.
Absolutely.
So any fun goals or resolutions for the year? Off the top of your heads? Do you create resolutions?
No, I typically think about like if there's something I kind of want to focus on, but by March I forget what that is. Start off this like what I feel I need to focus on today is not the same as March.
Sure. I've been thinking about instead of actually goals, more of like directions. Like,
Yeah.
I want to move more in the direction of regular creativity in my life. Like habit forming stuff, directions, routines, putting things in place that will help me. Regular exercise, regular creativity, less social media.
Yeah, I was thinking the same kind of thing. Creativity actually popped up for me too. So enhanced creativity in some form.
Mhm.
Could be doing some more writing, or maybe playing the piano, learning to do something that I haven't typically done before.
Right.
Pottery.
I think trying to enhance just consistency in terms of that balance and schedule.
Yeah.
What else?
Did you take singing lessons a few years ago, Chris?
I did. Yeah, it was great. It was fun.
I'd like to do something like that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, something along those lines, So I
Yeah.
wouldn't typically do. Yeah, so I guess similar to you, kind of directions versus goals, right? Or taking care of the body. So sleep and nutrition, exercise.
Self-care. We're talking about self-care.
Self-care 2.0.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah, I haven't really thought too much about resolutions. I have made them in the past and I usually don't follow them. So I try to not put too much pressure. But yeah, just little things. I've been working on little goals and lots of transitions in my life right now. So just trying to keep on top of those. I hope that I can, consistency and create some good habits for myself. So stay tuned as to what those are. But maybe that'll be in the New Year podcast. But that's all I got right now. So.
Fair enough. That works. Well, speaking of the podcast, maybe we should get to our topic.
Mhm.
The final topic of 2021. This is it. This is the last one.
It's going to be the best topic of the whole year. No pressure, Joanna.
Oh my gosh.
No pressure. So when you're ready,
All right.
Joanna's the one who knows. I do not. No one else knows what the topic is. Joanna is ambushing us with it right now. Send it on down. Okay. Here we go. What is it like being a kid during the pandemic? What has school been like? What has been the hardest part? And what's been the best part of living through a pandemic? Any advice for parents supporting their kids during this time? Aha. Children parenting during adverse times, difficult situations here, right?
Yeah. A little bit of a visit of some pandemic stuff that we're all going through right now. But yeah, I think that we'll be able to have some thoughts, and yeah, and maybe a little special guest to help us out.
Yay!
Oh, Lily. Lily, can you hear us?
Hi,
okay?
Lillian.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello. I like your sweater today. It's so sparkly. You're as sparkly as the snow.
So this is Lily. She is Chris and I's now newly 8-year-old niece. And so Lily has spent a good part of being 6 and 7 kind of through the pandemic. And we chatted last year, I think, about her maybe coming on the podcast and talking about what things have been like for her. So it's finally happening, and it's perfect to record it in the morning so we can have her on here. So it worked out. Yeah.
That's great. What a pleasant surprise. I did not expect this.
You
Nice.
just wait. Oh, and this is Brian, Lily.
Nice to meet you. Good morning. Nice to meet you. I like your rainbow shirt there. It looks really sparkly and nice.
Oh, Lily, did you look outside and see all the snow? What did you do yesterday in the snow?
I went sledding down really steep hills.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. I think I saw a picture. Somebody brought a rope and tied it to a tree so you could get back up really like a lot easier. That's a good idea. I've never done that. It's pretty smart.
And then are you going to go back in the snow today?
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
Fun. So much fun.
Thanks for waking up and joining us today.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So Miss Lily, just wanted to ask you a little bit. I know we've been doing this pandemic thing for a while now, but what's it like for an 8-year-old these days?
I don't know. I do.
What kind of stuff do you do?
Wow. I do things with my friends.
Like,
Like I go over to the house and then we play.
well, that's cool. And these days, what sorts of things are you able to do with your friends?
Well, we're not able to go on a bunch of trips with our friends, so. But we do get to I don't know. Well, can you help?
Play outside?
Well, we get to play outside.
Nice.
And in the summer you guys did a lot of biking, right? Weren't you riding your bike a lot? And then got to play in the really cool tree house in the summer a lot. That was fun. Yeah. And then wasn't there something else what were you doing? Skateboarding or something as well? Wasn't there another outdoor, not a bike, but something else? No?
It was a scooter.
It was a scooter. Yeah. It's a lot of scootering.
Fun.
Yeah.
Did you miss any school during the pandemic, Lily?
Yep.
Yeah, what was that like?
I don't know. It was weird because my dad was my teacher.
That does sound weird. Yeah. So was it, did you miss seeing your friends, or did you?
Yeah, I did. I only got to see them over Zoom.
Oh, I see. Was it kind of nice to be at home though at first, or? Yeah. And then did you prefer being at home, or did you kind of miss being at school?
I preferred being at home.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lily, but I have a couple of kids too. They're 10 and 13, and they had a little bit of difficulty sometimes staying focused when it was on over Zoom. Is it hard? Was it harder to learn things? Did you find when you were working from a computer than when you're in the classroom? Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people felt that way.
And
But-
your dance classes were on Zoom too, weren't they?
Yeah.
So that must have been really hard to learn new dance
Yeah.
moves. Yeah.
What was it like with your dad having to teach you some things? What was kind of maybe, was it really easy all the time, or was it hard sometimes?
It was fun.
It was fun. Was it
Ah,
fun for your dad too?
What?
Was it fun for your dad too? Yeah, that's good. Nice. And so what is it like these days being back in school? Are you in the same class with everyone, or what is it?
I'm in the same class with my two best friends, Natalia and Clementine, and then I'm also in the same class with my best friends, Alice and Amelia.
Whoa.
wow.
Pretty cool.
Which me and Alice and Amelia were not in the same class for 3 years.
Whoa, that's a long time. Yeah.
And is it different being at school now than it was before all the pandemic stuff? Is there any differences?
No, except one thing, that we can go anywhere we want in the school now, because we used to have one place booked in the school that we could play in. We couldn't go anywhere else.
Oh, now the restrictions are you have more freedom to move around the school. Is that right? And do you have to wear a mask all the time?
Yeah, it's mandatory at my school.
Mandatory. Yep. Yep. Same down here.
Lily's really good with wearing her mask everywhere.
She is very good. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's great. How about on picture day? Did you take your mask off for the pictures?
Yeah, you have to take your mask off for the pictures.
That's one time people get to see your smiling face.
Yeah. I'm curious if Carolyn is eavesdropping on this conversation. Maybe we can get her perspective on being a parent of a child during a pandemic.
Yeah. She's gone now, but she was.
Oh.
She's right there. Oh.
You can hear her laugh. Okay, well, maybe if your mom's listening, maybe she can join us shortly and we can ask her a few questions.
Lily, I have a serious question for you. Do you have any pets?
Yes, I have a pet, and it's a cat. His name's Tony.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me, how has Tony done during the pandemic? Has he been okay?
He's never met anybody in the pandemic.
Oh,
So
He's a COVID cat, so it's really hard for him to see people because
Okay.
he doesn't know them.
So they got Tony during the pandemic.
ah,
Yeah.
nice.
So
Okay.
Tony just knows you guys really well, but not many other people. Yeah. Is Tony with you right now? You're in Tony's room, aren't you?
Yes, his litter box is right behind me.
Mm,
Yeah.
fragrant. Smell nice.
Now, Lily, I have a question, a different, so not quite school, but your birthday party this year was very different from your birthday party last year. Do you remember last year's when there was?
I only had one friend over, and her name was Clementine, and we just watched a movie, and I got a present, and then she went home.
Yeah. And what did you do this year?
Well, I had 2 birthday parties actually.
This year?
Yeah. And then one was on Thursday, and then one was on Friday.
Very
So
fun.
I had 2 days in a row of birthday parties. And my first one was where my 2 best friends, Alice and Amelia, came over, and then we watched a movie, we played a lot, and then I got my presents, and then they went home. And then the next day on Friday, my 2 other best friends, Natalia and Clementine, they came over for a sleepover, but Natalia couldn't stay because in the morning she was going to Polish school. So then Clementine just stayed for the sleepover, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
And my mom slept downstairs too.
Very fun. With you. Everyone slept downstairs? Yeah. Not like you guys slept upstairs and your mom slept downstairs?
She slept in the big bed, and we slept on the couch bed, which can fold into a bed.
Very cool.
Last year because people really couldn't hang out, what did people do kind of coming to see you for your birthday?
Well, they did a birthday parade.
There you go.
And,
Okay.
So people would drive by and say hi to you and wish you happy birthday?
And they'd also bring the presents, and I can open
Nice.
them and try to find.
Is there, how about, I don't know, do people supposed to wash their hands these days?
Yep.
And like, is that something we're supposed to do extra? Do you remember that being something you'd have to do a lot before? What do you think?
I still have to do it a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more than usual.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, it's what sorts of other things do we have to do to be careful these days?
You have to not go too close to people. Wear your mask all the time, which some people in my class don't even wear it.
Oh.
And then we have to spread out, and we can't like breathe on each other.
Have you known anyone who's actually gotten sick, Lily?
I know someone that got COVID.
Are they okay?
Yeah, they're fine now. But so my friend Amelia's dad got COVID, and then her little brother, which is now 5, I think, he got COVID.
Lily, do you remember what life was like before the pandemic started? What do you remember?
I remember that we didn't have to wear masks, and we could hug each other, and we could not social distance, and everybody could come over to one place.
Right.
That's right.
Some of that has changed a little bit, but hopefully it'll keep, getting better and better as time goes on, right? What has been maybe the hardest part for you with having COVID stuff to worry about?
I don't know. It's kind of easier to get sick, and I don't like getting sick very much.
Yeah, that's fair. So lots of worries about germs and things like that.
That's why I wash my hands so much, and I wear a mask all the time.
Okay. And has there been any maybe surprisingly fun parts or maybe the best parts of the past little bit for you?
Yeah, there's a lot of fun parts.
Like what?
Fun part is that when we had the lockdown, I could just stay home. And yeah, that was one of the fun parts.
Yeah. Lily, you have such a great imagination. And I know you like to, you have lots of games that you like to play with your parents as well as by yourself, right? You have a playroom. And so did the pandemic kind of help you be creative and find new games to play? That's great. Any of your favorite games? What games do you like to play the most?
I like to play with a toy that I have. It's called a scribble strip.
Oh, nice.
See the little animals that you can color.
Oh, cool. I see a piano behind you too. Have you been playing the piano?
Yes, I have lessons.
That's great.
What sorts of songs have you been learning? Because you've kind of been teaching, you've gone to lessons that you've been teaching yourself a little bit, right? So you've gotten really, really good the past month. And one of your recent songs was what? Playing over Christmas.
Carol of the Bells.
It's a great one.
And you should
Cool.
see Lily's library. Lily has a library in her room. She has a lot of books.
I have 1,000 books.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Books.
What? That's a lot.
Yeah. Cool.
Lily, what would you say? Is there anything, any tips or anything you'd give to parents for how to support their kids kind of with the ups and downs of COVID stuff? Or what can parents do to help their kids, do you think?
I don't know. My parents are doing just fine.
That's good to hear.
What about your aunt and uncle? How are they doing as family members? Do you get to see them very much?
I think he means Auntie Joe and Uncle Chris.
I know.
Okay, just in case. I was like, you have lots of aunts and uncles.
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing good.
That's good to hear.
That's great.
Tony,
That's a lot of
we're
fun.
Good.
here.
Yeah, Tony's in the room now.
Oh, I got you.
There he
Oh,
is.
there's the cat. Yeah, for those who are listening, we get to see a beautiful cat right now, reluctantly being carried and shown in front of the screen.
He's pretty big.
He's only 1 year old.
He's definitely grown a lot this past year for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
a lot.
getting a little chubby.
Oh, he didn't like to be called chubby.
Oh, not at all.
So Miss Lily, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us this morning.
You're welcome.
I think it's nice to kind of have a little guest on, and it's really nice to hear some of your thoughts about what life is like these days for you. So yeah, it was really nice having you on.
Yeah.
So we will say goodbye, and I hope you have a good snow day today, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you, Lily.
Hi, Lily.
Lily.
Bye.
Bye.
That was quite the ambush there. My goodness.
Oh. Oh, we're back
Uh-oh.
on.
Back. Yeah.
Am I still here though?
We're still here. You can click us off. That's
I
fine.
think Carolyn's figuring it out. There she goes.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, that was good. Yeah, I did not expect Miss Lily to join us today. That was great.
Yeah, I think we brainstormed topics a while ago, and I think that was, even though it's been just the hot topic for so long, but yeah, she felt like, let's just do that one. I think because we talked about it first of all, so I think she just wanted to go already feeling a bit nervous about it. So anyways, it was great. Didn't really know what to expect, and I think considering coming on, and I think it was really nice to have her.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
That's great.
It's so interesting too. So for persons around Lily's age, like Joanna mentioned, she just turned 8, but like when the pandemic hit, she was
6.5.
6.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
she
wild.
spent most of her school years then basically dealing with this, right?
Exactly. Like how it's great that she sort of remembers prior to the pandemic, like not wearing masks and being able to hug people. But yeah, I mean, that's a big chunk of her life.
Yeah.
And a percentage that she's had to accommodate. And I'm curious about that for even younger children, where this is just what they know. Like all of the adults in their lives are like, we can't wait to get back to normal, but for them, this is normal.
Yep.
And
True.
they just adapt to it and make the best of it. As long as, I think Carolyn and Graham, her parents, have done an excellent job at modeling how to be adaptable. Like getting creative with different games. They're saying, no, like, sure, we can't do this, but we can do this, or how about we do this instead? Or they've been very, very creative, I think, throughout this process, and supportive and being adaptive. And I think that's a really important role for the parents to play.
Yeah, for sure. I think they do their best to answer questions about the pandemic simply and genuinely based on how old Lily is. So Lily loves to ask. Today she's answering questions, but typically she loves to ask questions herself.
And often zingers, you just don't expect them.
Yeah, so I think they do their best to answer those honestly, right? In a way that she would understand. And I think it's also so important too to recognize the child's feelings, right? If they are feeling a little nervous or worried or stressed, and trying to name it and tame that and help them kind of navigate through it, kind of normalize those feelings a bit. Because I can't imagine, adults, we get stressed out, especially with all the uncertainty and worries. And I think our podcast mainly focuses on the adult population. But kids are like sponges. They pick up on all these things, these cues. So you think these younger kids, you think the impact of that, you have to be very aware of the vibes and the energy that you're putting out there.
And two, there's, it depends on the family dynamics, but Lily's an only child. Lily doesn't have siblings. And so when it was just her and her parents at home, and her mom works from home. So her mom had to navigate that. And then her dad ended up being a teacher on his days off and wasn't at work for a bit, but she didn't have any siblings to hang out with. So I think it was all Zoom visits with friends or family. And I think that was, I think there's a little bit of that loneliness factor, especially in 2020 COVID times. And I don't know if Lily remembers that as much, those kind of harder feelings, but you're just not used to being around people. There's a,
Yeah.
you have to be very cautious, and I don't know, it's a weird times.
But I feel that they tried their best to keep in touch with loved ones and friends. Obviously, virtually is not the same as in person, but they were also doing outside visits. But I think there was some consistent connection there with the social network, which I think is super important as well, no matter what form that might be.
Mm-hmm. So they had Lily drew on their driveway, like a river. Was that what she had called it? Remember,
It was a moat. Yeah.
Or a moat. And so her and her family stayed on one side, and then visitors had to stay on the other side. And so if there were children, they could still play, but they had to stay on their side of the moat, and then get creative about like what games they were going to play. And nothing where obviously they were passing things back and forth, but they got really, really creative to still play and connect and be consistent with that. So
Yeah. One thing I observed with Lily, as well as other kids too, is just the lack of physical contact with extended family members, right? So getting a hug from the grandparents, or I think I recall that being quite difficult, of course, for the nephews and nieces, that you have this family member that you can't actually run over and give them a hug. So that was, I think, quite the adjustment for the children, right? So I guess that means extra hugs from the parents.
Think of some of the things that we'll remember as kind of markers of this time, and the drive-by party is definitely one of them. The parade of people, and you can see them happening around town. People like there must be a birthday party there, because there's like 10 cars lined up with big signs by the side of the car or things like that. That is just something that we never would have imagined before the pandemic, but that became the norm pretty quickly.
Yeah. Remember Lily too, we did a drive-by birthday. We had like a little parade and playing music and stuff, and she was so excited, but she's like, this is the best birthday I've ever had.
Yeah.
I don't know if she could recall many of the previous ones, but she was pretty excited by that.
Yeah, with Carolyn her mom texted and said, like, I asked Lily, and Lily seems to have some memories of the being able to hug and not wearing masks. Carolyn she noted it seems to be like COVID 2020 and COVID 2021 is kind of what kids remember. Like, it's harder to remember memories from before, and especially with Lily's age. But especially going to school at the age she is, there's like no Christmas concerts, like you don't, days, like they don't really have that experience of, and especially for the parents not being able to have their kids experience those things too, I think it's hard. Kind of these big firsts, right? And your first experience of school, and like some kids, it's just been through the pandemic. It's just, that's all they know. So maybe that's less stressful because that's all they know. And they don't know any different till things change. But it's all about adapting, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ryan? Because you are a parent. So how was it? Anything that you noticed in your boys or as a parent, like pros and cons?
Well, it's sure, absolutely. I mean, I think as a parent, it's, there's a lot of necessary adaptation. We had to adapt to a lot of things really quickly there when the kids were at home all the time. And I mean, fortunately with my work, I was able to work from home and continue to work from home, and just flex when it comes to the schooling and all of that. And as I mentioned with Lily, like there was definitely some challenges regarding the online schooling, and I have two kids. So the older kid seemed to adapt a little bit better to that. The younger kid had a really hard time staying focused and staying engaged. But one thing I noticed through this time was the need to connect is there. I mean, it's a very real thing, and they wanted to connect with their friends really deeply. I mean, that was a very strong drive for them, one way or another, whether it's a drive-by party or time on the phone, or even some Zoom visits. I think it's funny. We should probably have Joe Dilley on again, who talked about screen time for kids, because certainly be interesting to see, because my kids certainly played a lot of video games, played a lot of like Among Us and other games with friends, just to be able to have some of that social contact, even if they're not deeply sharing about their lives. They just wanted to have other friends to talk to, peers that they could connect with in one way or another. And that continues, like somehow trying to find some way to connect with friends just about every day is really important for them. And of course, as a parent and a psychologist, I know that that's vital. We have to have that connection time. And that's probably been one of the bigger challenges, but certainly now that they're back in school, they feel like a lot of those needs are being met again.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Like before the pandemic, kids all they wanted, or I'm generalizing here, but there's a big push for more screen time, right? More video games. There seems like a lack of focus on, or the importance of face-to-face communication and connection. Then that kind of wore off, and the kids are like, I want to go back to school. I want to go see my friends. They got kind of tired of the screen time, again, just based on my impression. So they're kind of yearning for the face-to-face contact again.
Yep.
Yeah, so important.
I've actually heard from both of my kids, even though we've had a pretty nice break here. They've been off school for a week and a half or so. Both of them are like, yeah, I kind of look forward to going back to school. Wow.
Yeah.
I never would have said that at that age. Yeah, forget it. No, but they really want to be able to see their friends. And I think that means a lot. And I guess I wonder, like, kind of projecting forward, a lot of people are sort of wondering, well, what's this going to do for this generation of kids, whether they're little kids or high schoolers or college or whatever they might be? How do you think this might impact that later on? If and when, knocking on wood, we get through the pandemic and it's kind of in the rearview mirror. Like she noticed that she washes her hands a lot, and she misses getting hugs from people and that sort of thing. I wonder if that'll be a higher priority for her. Like, oh yeah, I really want to hug my friends,
Yeah, no, good point. Yeah, it's unfolding, of course, and we don't know the long-term impact of this, but
we don't.
These are, for a lot of these kids, these are formative years.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I know some of the people who are, kind of anti-mask, or a lot of the restrictions that people have had, talk about, if you can't see, if kids aren't seeing people's facial expressions, they're not going to develop healthy emotions. I don't know that that's really panned out as far as any research that I've heard of. It seems more like speculation.
Yeah.
But
Not saying anyone who's visually impaired wouldn't be able to regulate emotion or pick up, right? Like, that's just not.
I think we convey a lot of emotion through our eyes, or orbicularis oculi, the muscles around the eyes, as well as is intonation, right? So for those who are blind, I think they rely more on that. It's like, didn't they do a study there about talking over the phone and smiling while you talk? People can kind of pick up on it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I sort of, I'm pretty skeptical of people saying that the kids are going to be severely damaged if they can't see other people's facial expressions all the time, particularly when they're at home with their families, they're unmasked probably, and able to see all of that. I just think that's pretty deeply ingrained with kids. So, but not to say that there aren't any impacts of this. I mean, when I was Lily's age, I don't think I was all that concerned about, I'd get a cold a couple times a year and it was a drag, and my parents would tell me to wash my hands, but there certainly wasn't this sort of pandemic label over everything. The fears and the concerns that kids have, that could be something that I don't know if that'll just make people more cautious going forward, or could contribute to more anxieties, health anxieties we talked about before. Don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, good point. I'm kind of curious. Like, I think, I think a lot of kids today feel anxiety because they're not encouraged to step into the discomfort. They're not encouraged to have courage, if that makes sense. So I'm curious how that's going to play out too, because we're all in this situation together. You kind of have to face some of these fears and worries and live our lives. So, and the flip side of things, maybe will actually help people's level of resiliency. Maybe that will actually maybe even decrease levels of anxiety. I don't know. Let's play devil's advocate. But I guess the research will have to catch up.
I think it's nice when asking Lily, how are your parents doing? She's like, oh, they're fine. I think that means a lot, actually. I mean, that's to read into that a little bit, like just knowing, oh, my caretakers are okay. Like that stability, that level of connection there, and kind of knowing, oh, my parents are doing okay during this. And my dad liked teaching me, and my aunt and uncle are fine. That sort of firm base foundation, I think, is really good for kids to have.
Yeah. Just to have that safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything's okay. My people are okay. Therefore, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess having, obviously, I think the pandemic has been challenging for everybody. So I guess even Carolyn and Graham probably pretty good at having those adult conversations away from Lily and trying to send her messages of safety. I think it's been important based on what I've picked up. Yeah. A lot of parents assume that their kids cannot pick up on certain things because they're so young. But again, I can't stress that enough. They can. You can pick up on, a wide spectrum of feelings, right?
Yeah, maybe you don't need to have cognitive understanding as a baby. You can feel kind of, the emotion or stress. The mom stress, the baby's gonna feel it. I think it's even what Lily said, I think it's just a good reminder for parents, like all we can do is do our best, right? And I think this is unprecedented times. And I think, your kids might not be focusing necessarily on the things you worry that they're going to focus on. And right, like they're going to focus on some different fun moments you had, or kind of how you got to all hang out at home together, or, some of those Zoom calls, and be grateful for some good hangouts with friends. I don't think there's going to be, such a focus on all the awful feelings. I feel like sometimes those kind of get less and less as the farther back they get. I think for everyone, like it's harder to sometimes remember some things well. So anyways, I just think it was nice to hear they're doing fine. I think a lot of parents probably need to hear that you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting also like you mentioned, Lily talking about her birthday, saying this is the best birthday ever, right? And as a parent, oftentimes, when I would look at my kids' birthdays over the last year and a half, or different events, I'm seeing, I would have a tendency to look at the deficits of like, oh, that's not how I celebrated my 8th birthday, and gosh, boy, that's not like it used to be. And I'm kind of worrying about, oh, what's that going to do? But in the moment, the kid's like, great, I have friends and family here, and I'm getting a present, and I get attention, and it feels good, So really taking that to heart, like, no, it might not look the same as what I experienced, or even what we experienced a few years ago, but you can still have great times in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They make them feel special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good points.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that pops into my mind too is just the importance of trying to keep a routine, have that structure. So even, if health orders kick in and kind of changes things, then still trying to keep that wake up routine and having your meals and having that focus time, having that play time, just having a bit of a plan for the day, it seems like kids often benefit from that versus just, okay, just go do your thing. And just, let me know if you need anything. I'm not sure if that's as beneficial.
Right. That's been very important in this household, having a bit more structure, and it's had to flex a bit too, because sometimes some routines drop off and we have to kind of instill some other ones, but having some regular chores and different exercise and things that we do to help make sure that the kids kind of can rely on that. There's something about knowing there's some boundaries, right? Here's the bedtime. Here's what you need the little tasks you need to accomplish for the day. And if it's just a free for all, I think that's a little unsettling actually for kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, that part of their brain hasn't really developed. They don't like there's safety or comfort in knowing that this is what you do when, and somebody's looking after that. And there's like a sense of protection around it, right? Versus the chaos of what am I supposed to do and how do I fill my time? And I don't think that's the conscious thoughts they're having. It's probably more needs based, but yeah, trying to put organization to chaos a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard someone once describing boundaries in a nice way, and they used a kid metaphor for that, saying, look, if you go to a park and you say, okay, have at it, do whatever you're going to do. We'll just be here for a while. That's a little bit, the kids will have fun with that for a little while, but they'll start to kind of burn out. They won't really know what to do. If you set a boundary going to a park, you say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to be here for an hour and we're going to stay within the fenced off area here. And we're going to play, these games. Then the kids kind of settle into that and go, okay, this is what we're doing. We kind of have a plan in mind. And sometimes, at least for younger kids, it's important for the parent to kind of establish those guidelines. And then the kids can really enjoy that time. And then they're like, oh, it's been an hour, it's time to go. And the kids feel some comfort in having that structure.
And yeah, that's a good point, Ryan. And I think that structure or that planning could be done just the day-to-day stuff, or we're gonna be going here today, or we're gonna be seeing this person, and instead of we're leaving now, we gotta go. And kids sometimes don't get the heads up about where they're going or if they're even going away somewhere. So I think it's helpful to let your kids set those boundaries or set those expectations, because I think kids find comfort in that. It's already so many unknowns, or and it's good for parents to kind of just put those walls around, I guess. So
Joe, you had been working at a school for a while. Is that right?
Yeah, that was already 5 years ago. I worked there for 3 years from 2013.
Okay. And these were older kids, is that right? Was it a high school?
Yeah, grades 8 through 12.
Okay. Yeah. So that's pre-pandemic. Be curious what that's like for those kids. The high schoolers as they're dealing with this now. But I would imagine they probably had similar structures in mind and having to deal with their own social systems there, right?
Yeah, well, gosh, I feel like we can get our older nephew. He just started high school. He's in grade 9, but middle school for him, I think through the pandemic, we heard like they really kept it that you're only in the same cohort, and you weren't able to go see, like he never got to see his friends because they weren't in his cohort. So throughout the whole school day, they had to stay to a certain section of the school. They weren't able to go mingle with other kids. And that was hard. Like it's great if you have a friend in your cohort, but if not, then that was a tough thing for him. Just it made school less enjoyable, not being able to kind of see those people he cared most about. And just, but I know like some kids starting high school and it's just masks, like you actually don't, like how hard must it be to introduce yourself to someone or make friends when you can't actually see them really, right? And they don't encourage hanging out and just visiting, like some sports are not even being played. And so I think there's sports now, which is good, but I think fall 2020 was a bit different than the beginning of 2021. So I think it's even hard to think back, like even when we started the pandemic and you focus on gratitude and you're just like, hey, this is scary and we don't know what's happening, but you're like, gosh, I'm so thankful for, people in my life, or I'm able to, I don't want to take things for granted anymore. And then kind of time passes and you kind of get back into things, and it's sometimes hard to put yourself back in that place of those things we want to remind ourselves of. And for kids probably too, like it might be hard to think back of exactly what it was like in those moments because it's just different now, right? You don't So I'd be curious to talk to Chris and I's oldest nephew, who's 14, because I think he would have more awareness the past 2 years.
Yeah, to connect with him, we have to log into Discord and join his Minecraft server or whatever game he's playing right now.
He's on his he plays a lot of video games, but that's his social connection. I know, like that's where he hangs out with all his friends. He used to see them in person too, but for a while there, that was it. So
Yeah, that is the truth.
yeah.
Yes. Well, great to have Lily, the expert, on here today, the expert at being 8 and having a kind of a front row seat to what it's like in elementary school for kids these days.
Yeah, I know. A lot of little things in there. I think it was nice to have her on.
Yeah, she's a delight. That was a lot of fun. And very unexpected. I was totally ambushed by that one.
Hooray.
Yeah, I had a feeling we're gonna have a special guest today. This is again, we I think as in clinical practice, we're not child specialists per se. I think Joanna works with kids probably the most, and followed by myself. But
Yeah,
it was great to have to hear it from the source.
I got to say also, I haven't met Lily before, but it's so interesting as we were talking about the sibling effect last week and kind of family traits and that sort of thing. I could see bits of the Boyd family in Lily, just the way she smiles and some of her little mannerisms. Like, that seems familiar. Like, just to be able to see little bits of what's kind of carried through in the gene pool there. It's kind of cool. She smiles like Joe smiles.
Oh, well, that's a compliment to me.
Yeah, it's nice. Just some familiarity there. It's pretty cool. Bright girl. That was fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, anything to add, Brooke?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay.
I got a quick quote from the wise Olaf. He says there's a part in the movie in Frozen 2 when they get their town kind of turns against them and they have to vacate. And he's sitting there playing with the kids. I think they're like bedazzling his snow. And he goes, "We're calling this controlling what you can when things feel out of control." I thought that was a great little line from Olaf. So again, we're calling this controlling what you can when things feel out of control. So again, that creativity and just kind of rolling with it and focusing back on control.
Wow, I had no idea that Olaf was so wise.
Oh, in the second film, he sure is.
You definitely give Olaf a lot of little wisdom bits for sure, which is just so great because he comes across in other ways as very, I guess, but a wise guy in the second film. So that's great. Nice little quote there, Sibo.
Yeah, that is a great quote, and that's in line with what a lot of the advice that we give to folks dealing with anxiety, right? What can you control? Even people who have anxiety about like fears of flying, like what can you control in your seat right now? What can you actually take take some control of, whether that's your thoughts or some of your behaviors, some of your emotions. What can you actually control? And that's certainly generalizes out to a lot of this pandemic as well.
Mhm.
Huh. So we'll end on that wise note from Olaf and sign off for the year 2021.
Happy New Year.
New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Wishing everyone a splendid 2022 where we can control the things we can control and I guess let go of the things we can't.
Yep.
That's it. All right. Well, we will sign off. So like and subscribe everywhere. Tell friends. And we will see you guys next year.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
listening.
Thank you,
Bye now.
everybody. See you
Goodbye.
later. Bye-bye.
Toodles.